We're going to continue with my sharing the series, Family, Friends, Fidelity. We'll start in chapter 11, 2 Samuel. By quick review, the last time we were together, we spoke about how David, a man after God's own heart, as characterized by the Most High, went to do an act of kindness to any remaining relative of Jonathan. And he was successful in doing so, but it was pointed out that oftentimes, as people of faith are trying to live out his teachings and instructions, sometimes you're met with opposition. And that being the case, we all must, in our continuing to exercise Torah and to demonstrate Torah in our lives, the way we respond to opposition also confirms not only your level of faith, but your level of understanding. These times are a time of uncertainty for us all, and as humans, most of us, when we're not sure about what's actually going to happen, we tend to we'll make statements, we'll draw upon things that we've heard. And I would just encourage us all, stay close to the Most High. Stay close to his teachings and instructions. Model our lives the way that he would have us walk out his teachings and instructions. We're going to make some mistakes. But if we continue to search our hearts daily, it'll keep us out of harm's way. Now, that I'm not saying that to say that trouble will never come. Trouble will find its way to all of our addresses, but it's how we respond and how we react to the dilemmas that we face. Let me go on. Out of King James Version, 2 Samuel chapter 11. And it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried or stayed still at Jerusalem. And it came to pass in the evening time that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. And the woman was beautiful to look upon. And David sent and inquired after the woman, and one said, "Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" And most of us know this situation, and some of you may be inquiring as to, well, how does this tie into what we're facing worldwide, not just as the United States? The pandemic is affecting a lot of people. And it's affecting all of us, but there are different effects. Some say that it's unduly harsh upon minorities. And that may be the case, but this thing is affecting all mankind. All mankind. And, again, in going back to what is it the Most High is saying? We've got to give an ear. We've got to settle our hearts. We've got to settle our minds. We've got to really still ourselves so that we can accurately hear what's being conveyed. I'm not here to. I'm not going to get in a jousting with anyone that is on social media or the networks. I'm not here because I think I have all the answers, because I do not. And I'm willing to say that. I don't know it all. But I will say, with this platform of having the privilege of coming before you, that believers and non-believers alike, search him out. Search him out. He's speaking to all of us, but who's hearing? And then what we're hearing, is it accurate? That's something to ponder. Now, the scriptures that I just read is talking about David, again, a man after God's own heart. And many of us are people after God's own heart. But I want us to see something, and this in no way is to diminish the relationship that David had with the Most High, and neither is this an attempt to diminish the relationship that you have with him. I'm not here to judge your relationship with the Most High. I can only judge my own. And, in previous sharings, I have conveyed to believers, don't allow someone else to get you in a situation where it's as if you've got to prove your faith to them. You don't have to do that. Don't allow, and by the same token, don't allow someone else to put you in a situation where if you don't follow what they say, somehow you have no faith. Every man has a measure of faith. Every man. And when I say man, I'm including mankind, which includes our lovely sisters, mothers, aunts. All of us are uncertain whether we portray that or not. And for a lot of us, we handle stressful situations differently. There are some of us that once we leave our homes, we put on this armor, and it's been characterized that hey, I'm invincible, nothing can affect me, and you've had people say, some will even say, I'm covered by the blood. And again, I'm not here to get into that as well. If that works for you and the Almighty confirms that for you, stick with it. We want to know when this is going to end. And we have a lot of health professionals. We have a lot of politicians. We have a lot of community leaders, local and national. And many are trying to do the best they can with what they have. But this way of life, this social distancing, many states, and we're in Virginia. So far, Virginia has not begun to open back up. And again, this still is scriptural. I'm not getting into the political aspects. This is what's going on in our time now. Different states, some are opening, some are still reluctant. What I'm trying to convey to you people is that our way of life may never return to what we were all accustomed to. It may not. I don't know. But those that can adapt will live. I'll go a little further. And David sent messengers in verse 4, and took her, and she came unto him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanliness, and she returned unto her house. And, while, this pandemic thing, we're supposed to be practicing social distancing. We're, many of us are reluctant to allow anyone in our homes. We've been instructed that older individuals are more prone to getting the virus. The young people, at one time, they thought that, it doesn't affect us. Well, any of you that occasionally listen to newscasts and even social media, you're finding out that now even the very young are being affected. And it takes me back to the point I made earlier. This thing is affecting everyone. And, the question is, how do I live in times like this? What is my responsibility as a man of faith? And my responsibility has not changed. Follow his teachings and instructions, implement them, and demonstrate them in your life daily. Now, David, in previous chapters, he had done a good thing. He was presiding over his kingship by staying true to a covenant that he had with Jonathan. He was still living out the promise that he and Jonathan made to each other by looking out for one another's family. Real friendship. And I asked in the previous sharings, how many of us have real friends like that in our lives? That is priceless, particularly now. But I'm here to tell you, for some people, life hasn't changed. Their habits haven't changed. Some of us are still doing things that are not pleasing to the Most High. And this issue that faces us all, it's saying to us, it seems to me, do you really care about yourself? But more importantly, do you really care about others? You see, some of us, we go to stores and, they have lines now marked out and they have X's and you just stand on the X's. And we're not to get too close to one another. Even now, even in the states that have opened, there's still some guidelines that we should follow. And I would dare say some of us have been out, and some people are having a hard time. To them, particularly, again, in this country, we have become so entitled that we don't feel that we have to adhere to anything. There are people protesting because they want their states open. And yes, in the United States, you have the right to protest whatever. And again, this is not necessarily a knock on those that are protesting, but what it's saying, I would ask them, is this for you? Or is this for all of us? You see, America first. That unfortunately, that theme runs throughout this land. America first. Even when we drive, when we have to go out, me first. Everyone wants to be first. We've kind of become fixated on us as individuals. We will determine what we will follow, who we will listen to, and when we will follow instructions and when we won't. But when we do that, we're jeopardizing others. And many times we don't mean to. But this pandemic is allowing each one of us to see how much we care, not only about ourselves, but how much we care about other people. Because if you're in a group that is not necessarily considered susceptible to the virus, maybe that doesn't mean that, oh, well, I can go out and do whatever I want. I'm in the safe group. There is no safe group. There really is no safe group. Let me go to another translation, and I'm going to read the first 6 or 7 verses. In the spring, at the time when kings go out to war, David sent out Joab, his servant, who were with him, and all Israel. They ravaged the people of Ammon and laid siege to Rabbah. But David stayed in Jerusalem. Once after his afternoon nap, David got up from his bed and went strolling on the roof of the king's palace, his palace. From the roof he saw a woman bathing who was very beautiful. David made inquiries about the woman and was told that she was Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah, the Hittite. David sent messengers to get her, and she came to him, and he went to bed with her, for she had been purified from her uncleanness. Then she returned to her house. The woman conceived, and she sent a message to David that she was pregnant. Now again, David, prior to, he was following God's teachings and instructions. And how many of us, and today for many of us, today is Sabbath. How strict are we in following his teachings and instructions on Sabbath. But I ask you, how was your yesterday? And what will you be back like tomorrow? Something to ponder. Let me go on a little further. David sent this order to Joab, send me Uriah the Hittite. Joab sent Uriah to David. And we know that David realized, I've got a problem here. And even in this time of pandemic, some of us have real problems. As I said to you earlier, see, a lot of us have not changed the way we do business. And when I use the term do business, live. That's what I'm speaking of. And if we remain consistent in doing things sometimes that are not right, we'll get rewarded for that. Just like if we continue to follow his teachings and instructions, we will get rewarded for that. We will reap what we sow. We will get a harvest for the seeds that we plant, good or bad. Now, many of us, particularly those of us that are of faith, sometimes when we have planted bad seeds, we begin to pray, and we pray for crop failure. Not going to happen. You will reap a harvest, whatever kind of seeds you're planting. We got to understand that. Some are of the mindset that this whole thing is the judgment. Well, judgment is his call, not ours. People of faith, more and more and more, particularly in times like this of uncertainty, we've got to toe the line. We have to toe the line. Our leaders need us to toe the line. Our families need us to toe the line. Many of you are already aware. The unemployment numbers came out. Staggering. Many of the jobs, it's been reported, by some of our leaders, the jobs are going to come back. We're going to be all right by year's end. I hope they're right. But it's something about this pandemic that seems to have a lingering effect. The lead scientist or the lead doctor has said we can pretty much count on it coming back this coming winter. And again, I'm not saying this going against anybody, because we're all searching for answers. And, again, the only thing I can say to you is look to the Most High, because that's who's orchestrating all of this. And only He knows for certainty, with certainty, how this thing's going to end up. Many of us, we spend a lot of time on social media and looking at the news. And some of us are unemployed. And we lost our jobs due to no fault of our own. And I will share with you now, in the midst of what we're dealing with, stay with what's happening here. Because I'm using this because the same thing that's happened to King David in the scriptures, it's still happening now, even during a pandemic. People in all countries, but because I'm in the United States, I'm more focused on here because I live here. And I don't want this country wiped off the face of the earth. I don't want any country wiped off the face of the earth. I'm not asking the Most High, get them. Because if he get them, he might get me in the process. And I'm not saying this to be selfish. My desire is that we all come to our senses and realize he is our only help. But sticking to what I wanted to convey to you and share to you, while you're doing your social distancing, while you're watching social media, begin to hone your skills, your computer skills. Certain sectors may not come back. Even when restaurants open up, many of us are going to still be reluctant to go out. In some of the states that have opened up, and again, I'm saying this, saints and non-saints, develop your ability to adapt, because some things may not return to the way we're accustomed to. Companies, large companies, they're going to look at, and they are reviewing it now. They're looking at the fact that 90% of our workforce is working out of their homes. They'll be downsizing, which will affect the commercial rental. See, everything is connected, and it's not just, again, not just in the United States. This is worldwide. Countries that it's been reported that they're now over the pandemic. Well, no, they're not. Cases, there's been an uptick in the cases. But their economy is being affected as well. Again, this is not only a health crisis, this is an economic crisis. But this is also a crisis where our faith is being tested, but that test is not to come from one another. That's the mistake a lot of us are making. No one else has the right to test your faith. Your Creator is asking you, where are you in this? Where are you in this? Are you going to follow me? Or are you going to go your own way? I have had things written out for you. I've shown you how to navigate your way through life. Follow it. Follow it. And those of us in the house of faith, we've got to be more sure in our understanding of what Torah really is saying. That's how it appears to me. And it has nothing to do with your political affiliation. It has nothing to do with the texture and hue of your skin. Mankind, obedience is better than sacrifice. But obedience to what? Obedience to his teachings and instructions. How are we faring? How are we faring now? How are we faring? And if we're okay, what about our loved ones? And if our loved ones are doing okay, what about people that you have said for years, decades even, you're my friend? What does that word friend mean now? How much of a friend are they to us? But more importantly, how much of a friend are we to them? Use this time not only to get our houses in order. I was told that a lot of the trash collection, dumps, they're being bombarded. Everybody's cleaning out their garage and, doing a lot of projects around their homes, because everybody's at home, just about. And it's interesting that, when the stay-at-home order came, it was at a time when it was coinciding with Passover. And so while people of faith were getting as much of the leaven out as they could, others were doing some cleaning, but, as was shared at that time, see, that cleaning is progressive. It's ongoing. Yes, there was a season for that, but that needs to be going on daily. Daily. Searching your heart daily. Because while you're out, you have an opportunity to demonstrate, not necessarily say, but demonstrate, yes, I'm following his teachings and instructions. Well, how is that done? By how you carry yourself when you are at the grocery store. When you're driving your vehicle, if you get cut off. If you come to a yield or a stop sign, do you stop? You come to a roundabout because you're in a hurry. Do you keep going? And, we might say, well, those are small, insignificant things. What is it? The little foxes spoil the vine? It would behoove us to start looking at life the way that he looks at life and not the way we have become accustomed to looking at life and living life. And again, people of faith and those that don't have faith, we are here for his pleasure. But a lot of us on both sides of the aisle, believers and non-believers alike, we kind of forget that sometimes. We, which includes myself, we forget that sometimes. Let me go on a little further. I'm in verse 6. David sent this order to Joab, send me Uriah the Hittite. And Uriah came to David. And when Uriah had come to him, David asked him how Joab was doing and how the people were feeling and how the war was going on. Then David said to Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. Uriah left the king's palace and was followed by a present of food from the king. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's palace with all the servants of his lord and didn't go down to his house. Now again, and I'm not picking on King David. King David in this instance could be any of us. And this again, this is for believers and non-believers alike. You've made a bad decision in your life. And you're wondering now, how in the world am I gonna fix this? And many of us, we get concerned because particularly, well, again, whether you're a person of faith or not, most of us are very, very, very protective of what we call our reputation. And we're more afraid of what will people think about me if this comes to light. And again, obviously, we're going through the scriptures here, but take David out and put yourself in this situation. And I'm using this only because this is what's in the scriptures, but there are other things that are just as detrimental that we've done in our lives that we're not pleasing to the Most High. And we try to fix it. And rather than repent, real repent, do an about face, a 180, not a 360. Because if you do a 360, you're right back in the mess we made. And, I'm standing here before you, made plenty of mistakes. And going to make some more. Not lauding sin. Not. But I'm an imperfect vessel. And that's just a nice church way of saying it. Some days rotten. But in the daily cleansing, got to deal with this mess I made. And not only deal with it in a way that's going to help me save face among my friends, family, and acquaintances, but address it in a way that will please the one that made me. We'll continue on next time. The Most High bless you and keep you.